Hello viewers, welcome to another episode of All Force e-learning program. Now in this session we shall take up the applications of the electric field due to point charge what we have evaluated using Gauss law. The applications of the field, the applications of electric field due to point charge. Electric field due to point charge. So I was telling you in the previous episode, we have deduced the electric field for the point charge using Gauss law. I have considered a point charge. Imagine a spherical Gaussian surface. The Gaussian surface, imagine, should be symmetrical to the charge that is being given to it. So we are given with a point charge symmetrical to it. I have imagined a spherical Gaussian surface at a distance r. So charge inside is q. The Gaussian surface q, a spherical Gaussian surface, charge enclosed inside the Gaussian surface is q. So the electric field strength on the Gaussian surface is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square. Now this is the electric field intensity. Now using this, regarding this electric field intensity due to point charge, what are the various things what we can evaluate? First point, the electric field intensity due to point charge, right? The direction of the electric field intensity due to point charge is radially outward. It is radially outward like this, moving normal. At any point on the Gaussian surface, the direction is outward normal. At any point, if I imagine a small element, the direction is radially outward. So the vector form of the electric field intensity E bar is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, it's q by r square r cap. We know the r cap value. In first year we have studied the unit vector. Unit vector r cap is r bar by mod r. So putting this in this, I get the electric field intensity. The vector form of the electric field intensity due to a point charge, it's 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square times r bar by mod r, and I get it as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r cube r bar. So this is the electric field vectorially. Electric field due to a point charge vectorially is 1 by 4 epsilon naught q by r cube r bar. It is. Now on what factors does this electric field depend? Right? What are the various quantities on which the electric field depend? The electric field due to point charge E, from this formula, this is Coulomb's constant. 1 by 4 epsilon, we know the value of 1 by 4 epsilon is 9 into 10 power 9. So it's Coulomb constant 9 into 10 power 9 q by r square. In air vacuum free space, the value of Coulomb constant 1 by 4 epsilon is 9 into 10 power 9. Had this charge been in a medium, in a dielectric medium, in an insulating medium. So if the charge is in a medium, I am imagining a medium of dielectric constant K. So I was telling you, whenever you consider an electrical medium, the permittivity of the medium, the electrical permittivity of the medium is equal to some K times the permittivity of free space. Right? Permittivity, electrical permittivity of any medium is K times the electrical permittivity of free space, where K is called dielectric strength, dielectric constant. It is dielectric constant, specific inductive capacity, or it is also called relative electrical permittivity. This, if I get this epsilon naught down, so K becomes epsilon by epsilon naught. It is the ratio of permittivity of the medium to the permittivity of free space. It is the ratio. This is termed as relative electrical permittivity epsilon r. Dielectric constant, relative electrical permittivity, or specific inductive capacity. K is specific inductive capacity. So substituting this, if I take the electric field in a medium, when this point charge is placed in a dielectric medium, an insulating medium, then the formula for the electric field is 1 by 4 pi epsilon. When it is air, it is epsilon naught. But in the medium, So when in a medium, when the charge is in a medium, the dielectric constant of the medium K, it is epsilon by epsilon naught. So epsilon I can write it as cross multiplying, it is K times epsilon naught. Putting this in the electric field in a medium, it's 1 by 4 pi epsilon, it's Q by R square. So epsilon is K epsilon naught. It's 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught K Q by R square. Right? So the electric field in the medium, it's 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square is the electric field in air. So this is E in air by K. Whenever the charge is placed in a medium, right? In the medium, the charge Q, according to Gauss law, the charge Q inside the Gaussian surface Q by epsilon naught. If it is in the medium, it differs. So therefore, according to that, E in the medium is E air by K. Right? So electric field due. How does the electric field change with the medium? Next, suppose if I consider this point charge. If I consider the point charge at imagine a point charge at the open end of a cylindrical Gaussian surface. Suppose there is a cylindrical Gaussian surface. Let there be a charge here Q. Now the question is, what is the flux, the electric flux through that Gaussian surface? Now we are not determining the electric field, please. We are only talking about the flux due to the charge. So if I imagine the charge Q on the circular part of the cylindrical surface, this is a cylindrical Gaussian surface. If the charge is placed here, then the flux through the cylindrical surface is. Now whenever you come across such thing, please enclose the charge, right, considering a symmetrical cylindrical surface. Suppose if I complete this by considering a symmetrical cylindrical surface and enclose the charge totally inside. For the total cylinder considered like this total cylinder, according to Gauss law, the flux is Q by epsilon naught. The total flux through due to the total complete enclosed cylinder, flux is 5 by Q by epsilon naught. In the sense, the lines of force coming out of this charge, right, and the lines of force coming out of this charge onto this side and to that side, half the lines of force pass through this cylinder and half the lines of force pass through this cylinder. So therefore, the flux due to only the given cylinder, that is the dark line, not the dotted lines, flux due to only this given cylinder, right? This is the total flux due to the complete cylinder that is enclosing the surface there, enclosing the charge. So now the flux only due to this is half of the total flux. So it is total flux by 2. So that is Q by epsilon naught by 2. It's Q by 2 epsilon naught. Whenever you are given with a charge to determine the flux, Gauss law can be used to determine the flux of the flux emerging from a surface also. So whenever you are asked to find the flux, then you enclose the charge inside the total Gaussian surface, imagining a symmetrical surface what that is given to you. Then the total flux is this. Then the part of the flux passing through given surface. Now here actually we are given with only this cylinder. What the charge is here. Now actually charge is not enclosed by the given Gaussian surface. It is open. So let me cover it. I am covering it by putting in another, imagining a symmetrical Gaussian surface. So when I consider a symmetrical Gaussian surface, now the charge is totally enclosed in two cylinders like this. Now the total flux due to both the cylinders is Q by epsilon naught. We are asked to find the flux due to only this cylinder. It is half of it. So I get Q by 2 epsilon naught. A very beautiful question. Earlier it was asked in the earlier entrance examination. This was even asked like this. Imagine a charge. If I imagine a hemispherical Gaussian surface placed over the charge. The charge is here at the center. Now the Gaussian surface is a hemispherical Gaussian surface is imagined. Given that the Gaussian surface is hemispherical Gaussian surface. Now the question is, what is the flux passing through this hemispherical Gaussian surface? I was telling you, the charge is not enclosed by the spherical surface. It is open. It is on the circular part. Here lies the sphere and the charge is open. What you do is imagine a symmetrical Gaussian surface to enclose the charge. So charge was actually on the circular part of the hemisphere. Now close it. Close it by imagining a symmetrical hemisphere. Now when I consider even this part also, the total Gaussian surface encloses the charge. Now the total flux according to Gauss law is Q by epsilon naught. Due to both the surfaces it is Q by epsilon naught. But we are asked to find the Gauss flux only due to this Gaussian surface. Half the lines of force pass through that and half through this. So the flux pertaining to this, the flux due to given hemispherical surface, it is half of the total. So it's Q by 2 epsilon naught. Right? So this way, these are the things that are being asked in the earlier entrance examination. Based on the position of the charge, you should determine the flux passing through it. Now, suppose a similar hemispherical surface is given, a similar hemispherical surface is imagined. In the electric field, a uniform electric field passing through it like this. This is also a previous entrance question. A uniform electric field is existing. In that electric field, a hemispherical Gaussian surface is imagined. Now the question is, what is the net flux through this hemispherical Gaussian surface, right? Now, what is the total flux through this hemisphere? What is flux? It is the measure of number of lines of force concerned pertaining to that Gaussian surface there. Now, if I imagine these points, consider this point, these points, here the lines of force are entering into the surface that is being given. And considering these points, the lines of force are emerging out of the surface. The number of lines of force entering into the given surface on this side is equal to the number of lines of force emerging out from the other side. So this is inward flux, this is outward flux. The inward flux going into it, it's phi inward, negative, minus. Inward flux is negative flux. The outward flux coming out of it, it is plus phi outward. Right? So the number of lines of force getting inside is equal to number of lines of force emerging out. So the net flux, it is inward flux plus outward flux, and the net flux is 0. Net flux is 0. So whenever the hemispherical bowl-like surface is imagined the electric field, the net flux through it is always equal to 0. Even this, if the same bowl is imagined the electric field of this shape, even in this case also, the lines of force enter through this curved part. Lines of force enter through this curved part, they emerge out of the circular part. They emerge out of the circular part like this. The number of lines of force entering into the hemispherical surface through the curved part is equal to the number of lines of force emerging out of. The total flux is 0. But in one of the entrance examination, the question was asked, what is the flux passing through the curved surface of the hemisphere? In one of the national entrance examination, the question was asked as, in this question, if he is asking you to find the total flux through the bowl, it is 0. But the question is not the total flux. He is asking you to find the flux passing through the curved surface of this curved surface of the hemisphere. Right? The flux through the curved surface. Flux due to the curved surface is dash. This is the question that was asked. Let the electric field be E, and the radius of this is given as R. Right? So, according to the previous question, the question what I have given earlier, the net flux through this hemispherical bowl, the total flux through the hemispherical bowl is 0, because the number of lines of force falling on the curved surface, inward flux, entering flux, is equal to the number of lines of force emerging out of the circular part. So the total, this is inward, this is minus phi, this is outward plus phi, so the total flux is here. But now the question is, what is the flux only due to this curved part? The flux due to the curved part, is equal and opposite to the flux due to the circular part. This circular part, right? Flux due to this curve is equal to the flux due to the circular part. But this is inward flux, this is outward flux. The nature is different, but the number is same. So therefore, flux due to the curved part is equal to circular part. According to the definition of electric flux is E dot ds. So it is equal to flux due to circular. Flux due to circular is E dot ds. Area. Now electric field lines are like this, and to this circular part the area vector is also in the same direction. So the electric field and area vector both are parallel. So it is Ea cos 0. So flux due to the curved part is equal to, it is E. Area of this circular part, area of a circle is pi r square, cos 0 is 1. So the flux due to the curved part is equal to, it is E into pi r square, right? It is E into pi r square inward flux. It is inward flux. Or rather I can put it as flux due to the curved part is minus E pi r square. This is the answer. A very beautiful question. It was asked in the earlier entrance examination. First, we have dealt with the total flux. When this hemispherical bowl-like surface image is placed in the electric field, the total flux due to this is 0. But the flux due to only the curved surface, right? Flux only due to the curved surface, it is minus E pi r square. A very nice question to be remembered. Okay. Yes. And another important question given in the previous entrance exam. A cubical Gaussian surface is imagined. He is asked you to find the flux through this cubical surface when the charge is positioned at different points. First question. If the charge is positioned exactly at the midpoint of this cube, then what is the flux due to this cube? Right? Flux emerging from the cube. So when the charge is inside the cube, the total flux, the total number of lines of force coming from this charge will emerge out of this cube. So the net flux from the cube, total flux from the cube is equal to, according to Gauss law, charge inside by epsilon naught, that is Q by epsilon naught equation 1. Yes, first question. Second one, when the charge is at the center, at the midpoint of the cube, now the question is, what is the flux emerging from each side? From each side of the cube. Flux emerging from each side of the cube like this. Now, the total flux from this charge is, since the charge is equidistant from all the surfaces, the total flux is uniformly emerging out from all the 6 sides of the cube there. So, the total flux coming out of this cube, Q by epsilon naught, is equally distributed to all the 6 sides. So, the flux due to each side, the flux from each side, flux that is emerging from each side of the cube is 1/6 of the flux from the cube. So it is 1/6 of its Q by epsilon naught, or Q by 6 epsilon naught it is. Q by 6 epsilon naught. When the charge is at the center, then the flux from each side, emerging from each side of the cube, is Q by 6 epsilon naught, because the total flux is distributed equal to all the sides. When in a cube, charge is at the center, the number of lines of force coming from the charge go equally from this side, even this side, to this. In all sides, equally it is scattered. So therefore, the flux to each charge is Q by epsilon naught, Q by 6 epsilon naught. Third problem. Now, when the same charge, instead of existing at the center, had the charge been at the center of a side, then what would be the flux emerging from the cube? If the same charge is now imagined the same charge now is imagined at the center of the side, then what would be the flux emerging from this cube? Now the charge is at the center, at the midpoint of the side of a cube. So I was telling you, whenever you consider a problem, you should see that the charge is enclosed inside the Gaussian surface. But in this problem, the charge is not enclosed, it is lying on the surface of the Gaussian surface. Now imagine a symmetrical Gaussian surface to enclose it. So I shall imagine a symmetrical cube to enclose this charge. When I imagine a symmetrical cube to enclose the charge, now due to both these cubes together, the charge is now enclosed inside. So the total flux due to both the cubes put together, total flux is Q by epsilon naught according to the definition of Gauss law, statement of Gauss law. So the total flux due to both the cubes is Q by epsilon naught. But we are now asked to find out what is the flux due to this first cube, the dark lines, whatever that is being given in the diagram. So the flux due to only this cube, half the lines of force pass through this and half the lines of force pass through this. So the flux to the given cube, given given shape is half of the total flux. So it's Q by 2 epsilon naught. Now third question, first is like this. Second, he will be asking you to find the flux. What is the flux passing through this side containing the charge? Flux through the side that is containing the charge in the cube, right? The flux through the side that is containing the charge. You know, when I consider a surface like this, a surface is considered the charge exists on the surface. You know, the lines of force of this charge move parallel to the surface. Along the surface, they go parallel. I was telling you while explaining the various cases regarding the flux there. Flux can be positive, negative or zero. Whenever the lines of force, I was stressing about this point, whenever the lines of force are parallel to the surface, the plane of the surface, lines of force going parallel to the plane of the surface, then the field lines are like this, but the area vector is perpendicular. The angle between A and A is 90 degrees. Now the flux due to this plane, flux through this plane is E dot A, which is given as EA cos, the angle is 90 and it is 0. So flux due to that plane is 0. So whenever the lines of force go parallel to the surface, flux grazing the surface, flux going along the surface, the flux measured with respect to that is always 0. So when I consider this charge and this side of the cube, the lines of force emerging from this charge, they go along the surface. They go along the surface, parallel to the surface. They graze along the surface. So the flux due to this charge passing through this side is 0 according to this concept. Suppose if I consider a plane and the charge is here, its lines of force will go parallel to the surface like this, parallel to the surface, grazing the surface but not passing into, there is no inward flux nor there is outward flux. There is neither positive flux nor negative flux. The flux pertaining to this is 0. So in this case, what is the flux through the side containing the charge? The side of the cube containing the charge. Now due to this charge, the lines of force go parallel to the surface like this. They neither get into it nor they emerge from it. Entering flux is 0, emerging flux is 0. So the net flux due to the side is 0. This is also another good question regarding Gauss law. So whenever these point charges are given, point charges, then the flux pertaining to the point charge, flux with respect to the point charge for different shapes are being stated like this. Now similarly, suppose there is a point charge Q. Point charge Q existing at the corner of a cube. This is a very difficult question to understand and a very important question even. Imagine a point charge existing at the corner of a cube. Now the question is, what is the flux passing through the cube? A very important question and a very difficult question. So what is the flux pertaining to the cube when the charge exists at the corner of a cube? Now I was telling you, whenever you are asked to find the flux due to a surface, according to Gauss law, the flux due to an enclosed Gaussian surface where the charge is enclosed inside the surface, then that flux, according to statement, the flux due to a charge enclosed inside a Gaussian surface is Q by epsilon naught. Q inside the enclosure. But here this charge is not inside the surface, it is at the corner. Now let us enclose it. We will enclose the charge. Imagine a similar cube. Let us enclose this by imagining similar such cubes around it. Imagining similar such cubes around it like this. So when I imagine this similar cubes, our cube, according to the problem, the cube given is this dark line cube like this. So what I am doing is I am imagining such cubes around this such that the charge is enclosed inside. So when I imagine such cubes, I get 8 such cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4 here on this side, and same 4 on the other side, front side here. Yes, so when I imagine this charge enclosing the charge, to enclose this charge I have to imagine 8 such cubes. 8 such cubes are to be imagined around. So then 8 cubes together enclose this charge. So total flux due to all the 8 cubes will be Q by epsilon naught. Flux due to all the 8 cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and similarly 4 more here. So if I picturize this like this, right, the diagram is getting a bit complicated. So charge is now enclosed inside 8 such cubes. The total flux due to 8 all such cubes is Q by epsilon naught. All the 8 such cubes is Q by epsilon naught. Then what is the flux due to each cube? Our cube of consideration, this charge. So the flux due to each cube is 1 by 8 of the total flux coming from all the things. So flux due to each cube is equal to 1 by 8 of the total flux, that is Q by epsilon naught. So flux due to each cube is Q by 8 epsilon naught it is, right? Q by 8 epsilon naught. There are 8 such cubes which are enclosing the charge. So the total flux due to all the enclosed Gaussian surface is charge inside by epsilon naught. The charge inside is Q, it's Q by epsilon naught. Then the flux due to each cube, this is 1/8 of the total flux. So it is 1 by 8 of Q by epsilon naught, it's Q by 8 epsilon naught, right? Good. Next. Now using Gauss law, right, you can find out the electric field strength due to any charge distribution. We have now found a charge distribution, electric field due to a point charge, right? Point charge, when I was considering a point charge, the electric field due to point charge, we have deduced the formula as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square, right? Now from this we can even make out, you can prove Coulomb's law out of this, right? Let me explain a very simple concept. Please look. Now when I consider a charge Q, right, imagine a Gaussian surface around it at a distance r. The electric field here, the electric field at this point, we have deduced the formula as E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. This is the electric field due to a point charge. Imagining a spherical Gaussian surface around it, E is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square it is, right? Q is the charge and it is inverse square law. Now suppose if I imagine in another Gaussian surface at double the distance. Imagine another Gaussian surface at double the distance. Now the distance from here it is 2r. The electric field here is E dash. The electric field here is E dash. So E dash at this point, the total distance is 2r. So 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, it's q by 2r whole square. So E dash is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by 4r square, or E dash is 1 by 4 of 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square. 1 by 4 epsilon q by r square is E. So therefore E dash is equal to E by 4. It's 1/4 of the electric field at double the distance. Now how? Let us understand using Gauss law. You know, I was telling you in the previous episode, the flux coming out of a Gaussian surface is independent of shape of the Gaussian surface and size of the Gaussian surface. In the previous episode, I was telling you whether I imagine, I was taking a problem based on this. If the size double, if I imagine a Gaussian surface of double the radius, then what is the flux? The flux is same. So whether it is a smaller spherical Gaussian surface or a bigger spherical Gaussian surface, the total flux from the Gaussian surface is a constant. The total flux from the Gaussian surface is a constant. So whether I imagine a smaller sphere or a bigger sphere, the number of lines of force coming out of it, the measure of the total number of lines of force coming out of it is a constant. So for smaller sphere or bigger sphere, flux is same. Flux, let us take this as the first sphere and let this take it as second sphere. Flux due to the first one is equal to flux due to the second one. Flux, whether it is smaller sphere or bigger sphere, the flux due to this and flux due to this is same. Flux is same. But we know the flux according to the definition of electric flux is E dot A. E into the area. Well, the lines of force are radially outward and the area is also radially outward. So it is E into A. Flux due to the first sphere. So electric field on the first sphere into area of the first sphere. This is equal to electric field due to the second sphere into area of the second sphere. Right? So I was telling you, please concentrate. If the point charge is existing here, when I imagine a spherical surface sphere of radius r, the flux due to this smaller sphere, the net flux due to this smaller sphere, flux due to this is same as the flux due to bigger sphere. However big it is independent of the size of the Gaussian surface. So the flux due to any Gaussian surface, any symmetrical Gaussian surface, independent of the size, the flux is same. So for smaller sphere, let the sphere surface be 1. The flux is phi 1. If consider a bigger sphere of double the radius, the flux is phi 2. Since the point is to charge is symmetrically distributed, symmetrical to both the things, the flux due to the first and the flux due to second both are same. But according to the definition, flux E is equal to E dot A. We know flux is E dot A. So therefore, it is EA. Well, both the electric field and radius vector both are in same direction. Area vector both are in same direction. Hence, the dot product becomes EA. So flux due to the first one, electric field due to first, area of the first. Flux through the second one, electric field at the second and area of the second. So electric field at the first Gaussian surface here, it is E. Now area of the first Gaussian surface, you know the first Gaussian surface is a sphere of radius r. So the area is 4 pi r square. Now the electric field at the second Gaussian surface, it is E dash. E dash. The area of the second Gaussian surface area, it is 4 pi. You know the total area is, if the radius is double, 2r. So the area is 4 pi into 2r whole square. So therefore 4 pi cancel. This I can write as ER square is equal to E dash. It's 2r whole square, it is 4r square. R square cancel. E is equal to E dash into 4, or E dash is E by 4. Same thing what we have evaluated from this. So the electric field at the double the distance there, here E dash is E by 4. You can deduce this by Gauss law even like this, right? Even if you consider a way still more bigger Gaussian surface, third one at 3 times the distance, 3r, the flux will remain the same. Flux is same. So it is E3 into E3, right? E3, A3. E third on the third surface, area of the third surface 3r. So it will be 9 4 pi r square. Electric field becomes E by 9. So this, by this you can evaluate. I was telling you, Gauss law and Coulomb law both are similar. Gauss law is similar to an alternative to Coulomb's law. It's an alternative to Coulomb's law, but Coulomb's law is restricted only to point charges. Just for point charges we can apply Coulomb's law, but Gauss law you can apply for any charge distribution, right? Uniform charge distribution. For any uniform charge distribution, you can find the electric field at any point around it, applying the Gauss law. Okay, thank you.